Hello, everybody. I'm Bruce Hagan,
And I'm Randy Salem.
and we're part of the Business Climate Leaders Action Team here to give you an introduction to the BCL Resources website. Contents, basically, we're going to walk through the site of the 4 sections about BCL, how to engage with companies, industry-specific resources, and other resources to support your efforts. Tip on how to watch the video. Watch the video on one window and have the site open on the other so you can pause the video and go in and try some of the things out, explore some of the pages. One more thing, when you're on the site, has 2 really good search engines. One of them is the Google search engine. Because it's a Google site, you can find stuff by just typing in the name of what you're looking for, whether it's the Economist letter or anything else. On any particular page, a Google Doc, Control F or Command F on a Mac will help you find things. So let's get back to the site itself. And we're going to start off with Randy looking at about BCL and how to get involved.
Thanks, Bruce. As you can see here, it walks through a little bit of history, but also the different aspects of business climate leaders, our sector teams, which focus on national, multinational companies, large companies, Fortune 500 companies, our GO teams, our grass tops outreach teams that are focused on small and medium companies around our chapters and community, the events team, which works on developing large external events as well as doing internal advocacy training within CCL, and our steering committee, which is kind of the glue that holds it together, which is our management team. Also support activities from research to marketing communications, design support, etc. And you'll see there's a list of job openings, different positions that we're looking to fill and would love
Want to
your
look at
help
that,
in.
Randy?
Sure. And specific tasks here, different tasks that you can do from an hour a week to many hours a week, depending on your availability and interest. And then as you look down, you'll see a very extensive webinar on BCL, which gets into the nitty-gritty of BCL and different successes and how we approach companies. And then a list of our steering committee members and ways that you can contact them. We're open and would love to hear from you.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to cover the thicker part of this site, which is how to engage companies. This is sort of the step-by-step cookbook of processes that you use to make most efficient use of your time and your resources. So being business-like, not necessarily having a business background, is the critical factor here. We have a process. We've given it this acronym of ICE-T, which stands for working in teams, identifying, contacting, and engaging your business partners. And each one of these sections is a page of its own. You'll get to see these briefly. But we also created a quick start guide. Like if you buy a product, you don't want to read the 15-page manual. You want to go right to the poster that tells you how to get going. And that's what this is. We did this here in my chapter, and after going over it with 3 people who wanted to work with a grocery store, they were in meeting with their sustainability manager in 3 days. So it's a good place to start. Going back to the rest of the ICE-T method, looking at the team formation part. So each one of these subpages has a selection of links that we think would be most useful to you. Everyone has at the top a team's guide. And this is the accumulation of knowledge that we've been developing over the last 3 or 4 years, which has all the details and links to external documents and so on. Just wanted to highlight here that it's very important, for instance, for people to know that you don't have to be super extroverted, super connected business person to work with this. If you want to do research, if you want to be in charge of tracking the team's activities, these are all things people can do. So an example of the kind of material you'll find in here. Going back to, the identification part. Again, a list of links for various parts of the curricula here, if you will. And I wanted to show you the team workbook and prospect list. We use this to augment the GET in order to keep track of our activities here in Santa Rosa chapter, California. And here are my current priority one prospects. And I have listed here the current status and what I'm going to do next with dates against both of those. And if Bennett Smith doesn't get back to me by early next week, I'm going to call her up. I've got her phone number somewhere else. But anyway, you get an idea that this is a really important tool for getting people to know exactly what they need to do next, remembering it after they've been away for a little while. So the next step, going back to engage companies, whoops, and looking at contact. Like the other, it has the guide. Here's a template to something we found extremely useful. You know, you have cold calls. We call this a cool call. If you don't know anybody at Point Blue Conservation Science, you send them an email, but if it's from your mailbox, descriptive subject line, I'm a volunteer, a neighbor, maybe a shareholder or a customer. What do you have in common? We went to UCSB together, express appreciation, CCL style, crisply describe the purpose, close with contact and a signature. Don't have gobs and gobs of stuff, short and simple. Couple of examples where we've used this. This is an excellent way to get started when you know where you want to go and who you want to invite. So stepping back, looking at the engage part. Again, similar format. We have a guide with a lot of details. Here is something that a lot of people ask about. If we're not going to ask them to endorse, or if they refuse to endorse, what else can we ask them? And we've tried to put all this in a top 10 potential asks. And you can see there's a whole long link to them. And Randy's been working on a document that we can actually give to these business executives that will help them do the kind of advocacy they may not have ever done before. So that would be a leave behind. And I think that's it. Now we're going to go back to the home page. And Randy, you're going to look at the industry resources, right?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Bruce. Fantastic tools to get people going. And this is sector-specific information. We have 13 key sectors from agriculture to transportation in which we are working in. And if you take a look at the food and beverage sector there, you'll get a sense of some of the information that's available to you, a list of prospect lists in the food and beverage sector, different resources, articles specific to that, presentations. And then here, there's some subsectors, brewers, seafood, wine industry, where we've have specific declarations that we're working on. If you
Hey,
take
Randy,
a
if
look,
I could point out, these are all created by people like Randy and people on other action teams. It's a repository, so no matter who you want to work with, you can find this kind of stuff.
exactly.
And here's the details on the brewers.
So the brewers, this is a way to get people to come and join the brew team. It has a toolkit with a sample email specific, as Bruce was talking about, but specific to brewers, as well as a lot of background information from actually how the EICDA will impact the bottle of beer in year 1 and year 10. Important information, as well as videos and webinars to train you and educate you on the industry, but also things that we can share with
Ooh,
your,
can we share that?
and absolutely, after you go out. And it's actually a great idea to actually go to a brewery and sit down and see if you can talk to them at their bar.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Bruce.
You bet. Okay. The last of the 4 pages on our website is supporting resources, information to educate executives. So this is generic stuff that some of which you can pass along directly to your contacts and prospects in the grass tops. Some of it is information that's background that you would bring to them. I wanted to point out 2 examples that are my favorites. You've probably all seen the CCL dividend calculator. Working with those folks and the REMI data, we created a gross dividend calculator that doesn't worry about all the possible deductions or extra expenses, because people just want to know how big their check is. And if I've got 4 adults and 1 child, and in year 2 of the ECIDA, $174 a month. This gets people's attention. We also figured out if you live in a community like Petaluma of 60,000 people, how much money is going to go in on a gross amount in year 2. And then you can see there it's $23,682,000 and some change. So really good at getting the attention of businesses and community leaders about the importance of the dividend. And that's an example of what you'd find on this page. I think one other thing I did want to share as well, we've got a fellow who's scanning all of the news content that comes through. And whenever something comes through that we think might be of interest to pass along to one of our business contacts or community leaders, this is where it is. And I remember a while ago, Conference of Mayors had a resolution. So if I do Control F and I type mayors, this is find, you'll see here it is way down here. I click here and there's the page for the mayors. And you go down far enough here and you'll find their resolutions supporting carbon pricing. So, and again, this is just an example of the kind of information that you'll find on this last page.
Yeah, just want
Anything
to
else you want
also,
to mention on that, Randy?
yeah, up on the top there is a list of presentations. So actual sample presentations that you can use when you actually have a meeting, either a Zoom meeting like this or an in-person meeting with trade group or a company. These are really nice examples of presentations that we've used and a great starting point for you. And of course, we're happy to help work with you in honing that down and making that for the audience that you're meeting with.
Well, that's cool. So here we are back at the beginning and pretty much wrapped up. If you have any questions, if you have any feedback on this, things that you might want to see added, please get in touch with us. info@businessclimateleaders.org is a good way to go, or you might know any one of us to email us directly. And I would point out too that in addition to being able to look at this, we're also developing a training curriculum where you can become a Grasstops engagement manager or GEM. So watch for that before too long. And thanks so much for your time and all the work you're putting into this.
Thank you. Thanks.